Today we are talking about Friday the 13th, A New Beginning from 1985. Is it awesome or awful? We're about to find out. Welcome everyone, this is Mike from fearshop.com. Today we're talking about Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, the fifth installment in the Friday the 13th series. Is A New Beginning awesome or awful? We're going to discuss that today. And the way we do that in these awesome or awful videos is we list out all the awesome parts, we list out all the awful parts, and whichever side has more, we'll figure out if the verdict is this movie is awesome or awful. It's a very black and white way to look at things, but I have a lot of fun doing these videos, and I surprise myself sometimes when I put these lists together and then start counting things up. So before we get into the video, make sure you're smashing that like button for me. Make sure you're setting up notifications so that you know when the next video drops. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave me some comments. Also got a horror podcast that we do, the Fear Shop Horror Podcast, so check that out at fearshop.com as well. So Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Still haunted by his past, Tommy Jarvis, who as a child killed Jason Voorhees, wonders if the serial killer is connected to a series of brutal murders occurring in and around the secluded halfway house where he now lives. The film was directed by Danny Steinmann. It stars Melanie Kinnaman, John Shepard, Shavar Ross, Richard Young, and Marco St. John. It was shot in California in 1984 on a budget of $2.2 million. It was released in March 22nd, 1985. Grossed $22 million at the U.S. box office. The film was initially going to set up a new trilogy of films with a different villain in the series, but after a disappointing reception from fans and a steep decline in box office receipts compared to parts 3 and the final chapter, Jason Voorhees was brought back for the next installment. Some will say is the best film in the series, part 6, Jason Lives, and Jason's also been the main antagonist in this series since. In addition to weak box office returns, most critics gave the film negative reviews. Now, a little bit of a spoiler alert on this one. If you haven't seen the film, shame on you. You should definitely check out all the Friday the 13th films. They're all worth checking out. We complain about some of them, but the reality is they're all fun films. You know, it's not cinematic masterpieces. You're not putting them alongside Scarface anytime soon, but they're films that you definitely should be checking out. So, the main, like I said, spoiler alert on this one, the main difference of this film is Jason is not the killer. So that's what rubbed people a lot of the wrong way on a lot of this. And for some, it also became one of the most interesting parts of this film as well. So Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was cast under a fake title, which was called Repetition, and many of the actors in the film were not aware it was a Friday the 13th installment until after they were cast in their roles. Dick Weon, who actually played the paramedic Roy Burns, was not happy with the output. He knew of the series' reputation. He hoped that things would turn out a little bit better. He also said they cut out so much nudity from the film. He said it felt like they were filming a porn film in the woods. So Corey Feldman, who was Tommy Jarvis in Part 4, wasn't able to film this, although he did make a cameo appearance in the film. But he was busy with his involvement in the Goonies, being filmed the same year, so he couldn't do much else with Part 5, A New Beginning. Good choice on his part, right? The Goonies was huge for him. The hockey mask in the film, actually very different than in other films. The film's the only entry in the Friday the 13th series to feature a hockey mask design with 2 blue triangles pointing downward, as opposed to the more common variation of the 3 red triangles with the lower 2 pointing upward. I know, nerd alert and all that stuff, but yes, I do enjoy all this stuff, horror in general, and especially Friday the 13th. If you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure assuming you do as well. So, director Danny Steinmann, who also directed Savage Streets, disappeared from Hollywood after A New Beginning. A lot of people complain about this film because there's not much new, but I'm not sure how many Friday the 13th films bring too much new to the table. And when they do, a lot of people complain about it. A la Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X. Most everyone will say Jason Goes to Hell is, if not their least favorite of the series, is definitely one of their 3 least favorite in the series. A lot of people hate Jason X. Now, there are a lot of people who really enjoy Jason X as well. Like I said, I enjoy them all. I think Jason X is actually, one of the more favorable ones in the series myself. Alright, so the way this works is we list out all the awesome elements, we list out all the awful elements, we weigh the two together, and we come up with a verdict on whether or not Friday the 13th A New Beginning is awesome or awful. So, to start it off on the awesome side, Tommy is a great character in the series, even though he's played by a different character each time outside of Corey Feldman's cameo in this one. It's something to be said for the characters that keep coming back to the series. I mean, personally, I don't think Friday the 13th really did it enough. It happened, in Nightmare on Elm Street a few times, none more popular than Nancy, obviously. Same thing with Halloween, right? I mean, Halloween had Jamie Lee Curtis in there as well. And in Friday the 13th, there was, let's say for the most part, it was Tommy was the only one that really lasted for longer than one movie, outside of somebody getting killed in the brief few minutes of the next movie, just to close things out. Another awesome element: some of the kills were still great, although not all of them. Actually, maybe not most of them. Another awesome part of this: the Porta Potty scene makes you think twice every time you walk into one, as if those things aren't already horrific enough with the stench. But, just thinking just that thin layer of plastic and you don't know what's going on outside. Another awesome element: while most of the characters are forgetful, you still have Tommy, you have Reggie, you have a decent final girl. Let me tell you, I probably see more people at horror conventions from A New Beginning than I actually see from most other Friday the 13th installments. There are some good characters in this movie. Love it or hate it. A lot of people complain about some of them, but I thought there were some memorable ones here. And last awesome element: while this film is one of the worst in a franchise, it's still fun as hell to watch. Alright, now let's break down the awful elements to the film. First and foremost, I already mentioned this before, the killer's not Jason. It's the main reason that people call this film the black sheep of the franchise. And to be honest, when you really rewatch the film, I don't know how people missed that it wasn't Jason. I know when I first watched it, I wasn't really thinking about it. You just assumed all you had known since part 2 was Jason, and so you just assumed it was Jason. But then when you rewatch the film, there are some, the mask was completely different, obviously. You've seen the eyes, right? And you've seen just a human-looking element to the face and the hands. It was just so obvious afterwards. Just a little cues that you also pick up from Roy in the beginning of the movie. But, awful. I kind of praised some of the characters as being kind of cool, but most of the characters are very one-dimensional. Awful element. This one is probably, I can never shake this, but it's the one that bugs me the most. The ending feels like a Scooby-Doo adventure with the unveiling of the killer. It's not like you would expect a lot of mystery movies to come by, but I was expecting at any point like Shaggy and Scooby to just come out. It was very weird. It was just, the only thing missing was the killer just basically saying, "Oh, I would have gotten away if it wasn't for you." But alright, another awful element: the kills, not bad, but 3 and 4 had a ton of original kills, and the quality of these kills overall are far lower. Another awful element: the film lacks suspense. It's just not there. You get that in a lot of other films, and I think people take it for granted and don't realize it until it's missing. Another awful element. The effects are practically gone from this movie. Another awful element. The killer really did not make sense because by the end of the film, you didn't even recognize who he was because it had been so long. Now, I know he makes 2 appearances in the film, but you see it, you're just like, wow, okay, that's somebody else. And then finally they start piecing it together. Oh, it was that paramedic guy. And by then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember really what he looked like. Alright, another awful element. It was a new beginning, but pretty much the same plot as the first film. It's, the first film, as much as I love it, and it was, obviously spawned all the sequels and all that. The clear missing element of the first film, after you started to see 2 and 3 and 4, was Jason wasn't in it. So the original Friday the 13th is still a good film for everything that it did. And then they decided after 3 really successful movies to flip everything on its head, but then just kind of used the same plot from the first movie, where it was just, somebody else. All right, awful. The film is rather sleazy. It feels like the director just wanted to see boobs. Not going to knock people for wanting to see boobs. I love them just as much as the next person. If that was the case, just make a porn film, right? And like I had mentioned earlier in the film, there was so much of it that was even cut out that one of the main actors in the film even thought that they were filming a porn movie. I don't know how tongue-in-cheek that comment was, but I mean, the reality is you can see a lot of sleaze in this movie. I just don't think it was needed. Friday the 13th has never really shied away from nudity or sex by any means. There was something a little more over the top with this one, though. Alright, so we listed all our awesome elements. We listed all our awful elements. Time for the verdict. And the verdict is that Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, is awful. Truly pains me to say that because I watch this film a lot, but the rules are the rules, and the negatives outweigh the positives. I did not even mention that somehow Jason was able to teleport even though he's human in the film. Just to keep pounding on the negatives. But at the end of the day, I've said this before a bunch of times, just because I'll say a film is awful doesn't mean I don't watch it. I still like the film, but according to the rules, the film is awful. So in the comments below, let me know what you think. Do a list yourself and start weighing out the positives and the negatives. Let me know which elements that I listed out you agree with and what you think I missed as well. So that wraps this video up. Make sure you're liking this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell to set up notifications. Smash that like button. So until the next episode, make sure you keep it R.